Hi Julia, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you here with us at the 81st Venice Film Festival. I guess for people who don't know what to expect when they dive into Diva Futura, you could give us a brief introduction.
Yeah, so Diva Futura is a movie that tells the story about this talent agency that basically brought porn in Italy, and his founder Riccardo Schicchi and Cicciolina, they founded this agency, but they started this revolution. They wanted to make a revolution in the Italian society, and so the movie tells the story about how everything started, but also eventually how everything fell apart.
And I understand it was based on this 2013 book, Don't Tell Mum I'm a Secretary.
Yeah.
So, when did you first come across that book? And what really sort of got your creative juices flowing, thinking this is going to just work really well as a film on the big screen?
I came across this book, I think 4 years ago. I found it really interesting because it was everything except what I was expecting from that world to be like. And then eventually I was able to get in contact with Deborah and the secretary of Riccardo Schicchi, who wrote the book. And then she put me in contact with all the real characters who are still alive. And the more I digged into their stories, the more I found it surprising, but also filled with a lot of themes that still resonate today. And so that's the main reason why I wanted to make this movie. There are really interesting themes such as violence in porn. Why should we associate violence to sex? Nowadays, porn generates 97 billion per year. The industry, children are exposed to porn for the first time. The average age is 12. 90% of porn is violent. So when I read and then learned about this character who was had this shameless point of view on things, and he had no sense of shame. He wanted to make these movies that were kind of art for him, but and his divas for him were artists with no limits. But then he would get really, mad when he would learn about people instead of who would get violent and treat women. He was very respectful of women. So it was this big contradiction, but it still resonates today. I liked a lot his approach of being amoral and not immoral. I think it's something society should start to think about, because porn is silent sexual, but also intimate education that is silently, in society. And by putting all this violence and associating sex to violence, you basically get into people's mind. You cause them to identify with that at some point. Whenever you represent something through a play, a book, or at some point the viewer, the reader, that will identify. And why should we put that into people's mind? I think so. It's the question is not whether someone should ban porn or not. Porn always existed since the ancient Greeks, or every culture represented sexuality somehow. Why should we get into teenagers' mind, and their first approach to sex should be associated to violence against women? We're not allowed to promote racism. Why should society not say anything about violence that is represented against women? And also no one talks about it, but everyone watches it. And I think the effects are really bad.
In that sense, do you feel sort of the words you hear describing kind of the film are, that it's quite brave and, kind of taboo busting, and perhaps there is still this kind of shame associated with it, or something that's just kept very hidden. People don't talk about this topic, and we don't see it dealt with really in mainstream cinema very often. Did you feel that, sort of embarking on the project, that you're doing something brave?
I didn't feel brave. I felt a bit scared So because I knew I was taking a big risk. I was taking a big risk because of the subject. I was taking a big risk because of, it covered 40 years of, history. It was, dealing with real characters that were like icons in Italy. But for sure, the theme was very difficult. But on the other hand, like I felt that the porn was just like an arena to open a debate on themes that for me are really important. And so I wanted that the message that comes across is like a feminist message about, a guy who had a different way of looking at women. So when you feel that something is important, then you take the risk. And you're terrified, but you still go on.
And such a wonderful cast that you put together. I guess to some extent, an ensemble cast, but, right at the center, Pietro Castellitto. Obviously with his background, he's been immersed in cinema from such a young age, and even been behind the camera with Predators and Aeneas, which was both of which had been here at Venice. So was he someone that you sort of almost had in mind?
He was the first name that the casting director and I had on mind. So I think he took a big risk, and I'm really thankful to him for that because it was risky. It could have been a very, like now I'm happy about the movie. People might like it or not, but I'm happy about it. But it was a huge risk, and it could have been like also, when you want to represent something, but it doesn't come the way you pictured it so it was a big risk for him, but I enjoyed working with him, and I think he proved to be a very talented actor, especially because he surprised me when he had to take out the more mature old man inside himself. He's in his 30s. He's just like, still like a young guy. And I thought that something that surprised me. I had big expectations on him. He surprised me, even if I knew he was a good actor. Like, still, I was like, oh, okay, he's way better than I thought. And I already thought he was a great actor. So that's really good. And the actresses, instead, it was a long process. And we casted a lot of foreign actresses for both Eva's part and Cicciolina's part. I think we saw more or less like 500 actresses. They just did an amazing audition, and so we went with that. And also Moana was very difficult because she's like an icon here in Italy. And so I'm really curious to see the impact that's going to have on the Italian audience, because for Italians, Moana was like really, an icon.
Coming to the part of Deborah, obviously you'd worked with Barbara Ronchi before on September. So was that again something, it was sort of like an obvious choice for you? And perhaps also you've got that shorthand when you've already worked on a film together.
Barbara was someone that is the other actress that I had on mind. It was a long process to have her in September. And so in my first movie. And so here it was just like, I knew that she had the right irony, and also like that I liked the way Barbara and Pietro got along and created this great, relationship. But Barbara is an actress that I love to work with, and really talented. I had to fight to have her in my first movie, and here, luckily, I didn't have to fight.
What does it mean to you to have the film premiering here in Venice? And what do you hope the impact to be? Because, it has got this kind of irreverent tone to it, but there's a serious message in there, that how something that kind of come from sort of this free love, sort of empowering roots turn into something, that is about the commodification of the female body, of sex, and has taken society in quite a dark direction, you know, perhaps without us really sort of noticing it or really doing much to stop it. So perhaps hopefully it can prompt some conversations.
I think it was a brave choice to like bring to Venice a movie with this theme. But on the other side, like that's exactly what I wanted to do. Like they were like so light and so, you know, playful. But then what I wanted to open is a debate, a serious debate on all these themes that we were talking about. And even like the story, like the uprising and then like the fall are exactly this. Like they created something, they contributed to create something that then was the opposite from, you know, what he wanted women to be treated like. And so I hope to like open a little debate about all this because we need to talk about it.
100%. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Huge congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
And really enjoyed presenting it here in Venice. Thanks so much.
Thank you.